This is my video for discussion 1 in Photoshop 2 with Professor Beakley-Mercill. My name is Fred Atkinson. I'm originally from the East Coast. I've moved all over the country during my career, and I'm retired now. I'm living in Phoenix because my last major job was here before I retired, and actually my retirement coincided with the end of COVID, or the beginning of COVID, because they had a massive layoff due to COVID because their sales were down, and we downsized about 200 people from our company then. Well, it was a shame because it was probably the most employee-friendly company I ever worked for, and I miss them. But stay in touch with one of my colleagues from time to time. But at any rate, I have 4 college degrees. I have a master's from Johns Hopkins in Information and Telecommunication Systems. I also have a degree in management, bachelor's, and I have 2 associate's degrees, one in electronics engineering technology, and the other one is in enterprise network management. And I've taken a lot of other classes over the years. One of them was a sign language class, which I took at the world-famous Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. For those that don't know, it's the only university in the entire world that's exclusively for the deaf. And they did give sign language classes for the hearing. So I decided, I could earn 3 credits over there and transfer them. So I went over there and took a semester of sign language. Those skills have come in handy now and then. I don't use them often, but once in a great while, I'm able to use it productively. I had a deaf woman walk in when I was serving as a precinct judge during the last election, and all my co-workers there said they'd have been lost if I hadn't stepped up. But I communicated with her very effectively, got her through the process, and she seemed very excited about how smoothly it went when she left. So got to practice my sign language skills with her a little bit. Not a great signer, but I can do it if they're patient with me. So I'll roll on to there. So that's a good little bit about. Oh, I've also admitted that I'm a webmaster. I've got my first website was mishmash.com, which I created when I was in graduate school, working on my information and telecommunications systems management degree. And I've got a web hosting account, so I can host other websites, and I host a good handful of them now, and I got a good handful of domain names. You'll see the logo from my website on my hat here, and along with some pins that are WordPress related or webmastering related. So that explains that. And to summarize my past Photoshop experience, well, I just learned it last semester at Estrella. Took the Photoshop 1 class over there with Professor Valerie Acuna. Very nice professor, very good teacher. Bit of a perfectionist, which is good because it brings out the skill in her students. And I've stayed in touch with her for a couple of things. Probably will. So probably will continue to. But that's where it stands. My Mimi is around my music. Still working on it. I'm well underway though. You're going to see a picture of my face, and you're going to see an image of me holding my bass flute, which I purchased at the National Flute Association convention here in Phoenix this past year, and I'm just learning to play it now. But that'll be there, as well as some musical symbols and things. You'll see a spectacular background image that I got from Pixabay, which is a website Professor Mercill says she's going to introduce us to during the course, as well as a couple of other sites where you can get royalty-free images. So that's it. That's basically it. I created it with Photoshop, of course, creating it with layers and layer masks. And I used the brushing routine to make transparent the background about my face and maybe a couple of other images. So all in all, that's a pretty neat thing. I'm finding Photoshop. And the one thing I want to focus on in this class is learning how to use Photoshop to make really splashy photos come to life on my web pages. And if I can learn to do that, I feel like I got my money's worth here. So that's where that stands. My favorite superhero of all time. Well, folks, that would be Superman. I remember watching George Reeves' Superman from the 50s television show when they were running the reruns in the 70s, because I was still a teenager in the 70s, and that caught my attention. And it just frustrates me sometimes to see why people just don't get it about Superman. How a man who fights for truth, justice, and the American way, his alter ego is that of a reporter, which is also what reporters are supposed to do. And today, these people call themselves journalists, and they're not really reporters, in my humble opinion, because they bias their writing with their political stance, their bias, and their prejudices, and they so far out there pushing their causes that they're not really reporting the news. And lost something in the translation. I consider the term journalistic integrity to be an oxymoron in this day and time. At one time, probably not, but today, that's what I consider it. It's really sad too. But one other thing about Superman, and in the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves, remember the scene where he was flying up the side of the building to snatch Lois Lane out of midair? She was falling from that helicopter off the top of the Daily Planet building, and he grabbed her and the helicopter and flew them both back up and landed them on the top of the building, and the crowds were just cheering him on. And it reminds me, so much when we do great things in the world, how our fellow citizens will cheer us on and encourage us, and that's really a big part of what being an American is all about. So, where that's the way that's going. I'm going to close with a quotation from Bruce Lee. It's one of my favorites, and I didn't mention I'm a second-degree black belt, although I haven't trained in 20 years. My specialty was Taekwondo. So Bruce Lee is kind of somebody of my interest to me. But he once said this, and I used to teach this to my students when I taught university and college. Don't focus on the outcome. Instead, apply the principles you have learned and let nature take its course. Let's hope everybody has a good learning experience here and takes away some skills they can use in the work world. Take care.